What's going on, everybody? Anthony Campo here, and today I want to talk to you about managing your projects through a PAR score. So sit back, relax, and we'll let the intro roll, and we'll see you on the other side. The question is, what does it take to build a battle-ready business? What does it take to dial in your marketing, sales, fulfillment, and leadership so that you can go to war in the marketplace and win? My name is Anthony Campo, your host and chief coach at Battle Ready Business. This is the Be Battle Ready podcast, Daily Battle Edition. And on a daily basis, we're going to take a deep dive look at what it takes to win in the marketplace. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you on the other side. All right. So, I've been doing a little thinking about how to manage projects, and it was spurred by talking with the advertising agency and how they are onboarding, testing, and building out the campaigns that they're working on for their clients, and the process and the flow that goes along with that. The way that we ran the gym in the past was a lot of it was somewhat of a media agency, and how we produced events, how we promoted events. And the forward facing obviously was classes and fitness training. But behind the scenes, it was a lot like running a media agency and producing marketing. So, and the process and the system that goes along with that. But I was actually, this has come up a few times, and I think this is a struggle that a lot of creative agencies have, is actually like they're pretty good at getting clients, right? But when it comes to fulfilling upon clients, a lot of times unless they have a person on their team that's process driven, that is is a good project manager, then it's not their natural forte. It's just the two different sides of they're just opposites, right? A lot of creatives aren't project managers. I know I'm generalizing, but at the end of the day, that's generally what it is, and what I've experienced. And being a creative process, it's a lot of creative people don't want to put themselves into a box of a process, of looking at it in the sense of, okay, well, this is step one, this is step two. They just create, right? It just comes to them. But if you really step back and look at creative process, how they get from concept to creation, there are steps in there. So what I want to dig in today is two things. If you're a creative agency and you're doing well at generating, new customers, and you're great at your marketing, and you're doing good at that, how do you manage the workflow? Because if you're really good at marketing, and people are saying yes to you, you might not have the capacity to say yes or take on everybody, or you might just feel like you have to take everybody on, and you just end up delaying, and then you don't get the repeat business. And then, one of the things that I found while managing my team in that process of creating a project management, for the most part, was knowing where everything was. And since there was multiple things, multiple projects happening, multiple aspects of the business moving, how did I actually, how do you actually know and get a clear picture from the owner perspective? Because my experience is that, part of me couldn't let go and be at peace with it, because, there wasn't we had good structure, but there was a better way to do it. And I've been thinking about that lately. So let's dig into this, right? So the first thing is you've got to have a cadence and a lot of times a project manager, and give them a numerical way to give you an idea of where that project's at. Okay. and meet with them, if they give you a daily report, if you're doing a lot of projects, if it's fast paced, hey, we're done with this. This is where we're going to go. Or it's on a weekly basis where they give you an update of where everything is, depending on the maturity of your team, the skill sets of your team, and where you're at in that process. It's key to have somebody responsible for that. And I don't think you as the owner should be responsible for the numerical, like for gauging and keeping track of the progress of of all the macro projects. Not from, you're looking at it from a macro perspective. You are ultimately responsible, but you have somebody, even if you're just a one-person agency right now and you hire an admin, I would actually push you to hire a project manager, somebody that's more of a leadership position than just a technician in that's actually doing the work. But if you are in a position where, an admin makes sense, or somebody at that level, provide them a framework of how to report back to you and how to keep track of the projects, right? And I was actually, the second part of this is getting into what I call the PAR score. And I was thinking about this of like, it's been tolling around, like things tolling my mind for a long time. And then I finally they finally come to clarity. But, how do you actually, from a quick perspective, just like with you do with your, at the end of the month with your financial numbers, hey, we grossed this, we netted this, we spent this, and here's our net profit. Like, how do you do that with your projects without, digging into each project? Because here's what you risk inside your meetings, going down rabbit holes of why this happened, why didn't it happen, your meeting should be set up in a way that you review like the actual results, aka the hard facts of what's happening. And I was thinking about how to do this. And, there's two elements inside of a project that dictate where it's at. There's time. You should have a structured way from when a client says, yes, I want to work with you. And you should have a limited number of products. That's a different situation. We'll get into that in another episode. But if they decide on service A or, type of package A, then boom. Once they say yes to A, it's a trigger. Now I have a training on this of like triggers and how things stop and process, but it's a trigger. And from that trigger, you start having step by step process. And like, for instance, in this thing, let's say it's a 3-part project, right? You have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and those phases should take 3 weeks. Okay. So you have time, right? You have the 3 week, in your mind, this is where this releases your bandwidth and your thought process, your mental bandwidth as the owner, so you can go focus on other things and actually run your business at a higher level. If you know that, hey, if I sign up a client today, by the end of, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever that cycle is, that they'll be done and we'll have that delivered. And we can tell that to the customer because you manage their expectations. So let's say a 3-week project, 3 phases. Okay. And you're in time wise, you have time, the 3 weeks, and then you have the task. You have 3 phases, right? And there's sub work underneath that. We're just talking from a high level of what's dependent, because phase 1 can't start without phase 2. Sorry, phase 2 can't start without phase 1. So let's say you're 2 weeks into the timeline, but you're only done with the project, the actual week 1 work. You're a week behind. So in a PAR score, you would give yourself a -1. If you were on time, you would have a 0. If you were ahead of schedule, so let's say for some reason you're at week 2, but you're already done with the project, then you'd be a +1. Okay? So that's for the individual projects. And then your overall macro, if you had 5 projects and you had PAR scores for each one, you had for the overall program or department, whatever you want to call it, you have a PAR score for that. So when you would come into this meeting, right, you would come in and you would say, okay, well, where are we at? You know, what's our PAR score for the overall program, right? Okay, well, great. We're at 0. We're on track with everything, but you might not be on track with everything because you might be ahead in others and da-da-da. So then you dig down into the individual. So what projects are behind? What projects have a negative PAR score? And then you dig into why, what needs to happen, how you need to course correct that, and all that. So that's one way to structure your project management so that you could, as the owner, kind of check in with your project manager and say, hey, here's where we're at. This person can give you where they're at, what's happening, what's not working, and all this other stuff at a fast, high level pace. And then you could track that macro PAR score of the program week to week and put it on average over the course of 3 months, month, whatever, and say, okay, what's our average PAR score? Where are we breaking down? What do we need to fix? So it gives you a way to just step in there and efficiently and effectively course correct your actual project management. So I hope that helps, and I'll talk to you soon. This concludes another episode of the Be Battle Ready podcast, Daily Battle Edition. If you're a business owner with 3 to 20 people and you want to build a battle ready business so that you can go to war in the marketplace and win, head over to battlereadybusiness.com/go to get the conversation started. Other than that, I'll see you next time.